Red Bull has dominated this season, winning everything possible so far. The team definitely nailed the new 2022 regulations, and now the RB19 is making the rest of the cars on the F1 grid look like F2 cars. Aston Martin, Ferrari, McLaren and Mercedes have all tried to catch up with them, but no one has really gotten within touching distance of them. Will this dominance continue in the second half of the season? What might end their winning streak? Stay tuned as we dig deeper into today's topic. Red Bull has won all 12 Grand Prix and 3 sprint races that have taken place in the first half of the season. Max Verstappen's recent win at the Belgian Grand Prix gave the team their 13th consecutive win, starting from the 2022 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. This surpasses McLaren's 1988 record of 11 consecutive wins, a record that Red Bull broke at the Hungarian Grand Prix. It took a combination of two of the best drivers in the world, Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost, and one of the all-time great cars, the Honda-powered McLaren MP4/4, for McLaren to set that 1988 record. However, for Red Bull, the combination of Verstappen and the Honda-powered RB19 is so powerful that they don't need a second driver even close to Verstappen's caliber. Obviously, we can't forget Sergio Perez's 2 wins in Saudi Arabia and Baku, and also his role as Red Bull's Minister of Defense. Max has won 10 races and 2 sprint races, while his teammate Perez has 2 wins and 1 sprint race win to his name. The RB19 has been on pole 10 times, with Max getting 8 of them and Perez getting the remaining 2. Verstappen now has 8 wins in a row and is only 2 consecutive wins away from breaking Sebastian Vettel's record of 9 wins in a row, set with Red Bull in 2013. He could also break his own record of 15 wins in a season, which he achieved last year. The record of most victories achieved by a team in a season held by Mercedes, who won 19 races in 2016, is also starting to look vulnerable. And from the look of things, Red Bull has the potential to become the first team to sweep the board, breaking McLaren's 1988 record of winning all but 1 race in a season. And it's not only the records that are being broken, but also Red Bull's trophies. Max's Hungary Porcelain Trophy broke after it toppled off the podium as Lando Norris did his iconic champagne-popping technique. In Spa, Red Bull's Constructors' Trophy was also broken after a pit board toppled on it. "It's broken again, the trophy's broken again," Verstappen shouted in footage posted by Red Bull on Instagram. The gap that the Bulls have with the rest of the grid is big. There has been a more than 20-second gap between the RB19 and the next constructor's car in 8 races. And in Hungary, Max had a 33-second gap from McLaren's Lando Norris. Now, with all this dominance, the biggest question that has always been there is if Red Bull might have benefited from breaching the 2021 budget cap. And if they did, how much did they benefit? The FIA introduced the first ever budget cap of $145 million in 2021 with the aim of levelling the playing field. Last year's RB18, which is the parent of this year's RB19, was developed in 2021, the same year the team was found guilty of a minor overspend on the cost cap. As a result of the breach, Red Bull was slapped with a $7 million fine and a 10% reduction in aero testing time as punishment. This led to the expectation that Red Bull would come into 2023 handicapped, but here they are now winning all the races. Lewis Hamilton even criticised the punishment, saying, "I mean, there wasn't really a big punishment last time, so there's no real deterrent. There will be people that will probably go for it again and know they're just going to get a slap on the wrist. But why is this the case? You see, the car development process and how the punishment was enforced were greatly misunderstood. Red Bull were already well into the development cycle for their 2023 car by the time they were handed the penalty, and the reduction in testing time didn't take effect until October 2022. At that point, a lot of the design and testing of the launch specification for the 2023 car had already been done. Red Bull knew the avenues for development they were going to explore first, so they could be very specific with their design and testing over the winter. And that is how the rocket ship, the RB19, was developed. The Formula One season has taken a summer break, and Max now has a 125-point lead over Perez in the drivers' standings, and Red Bull has a 256-point lead over Mercedes in the constructors' standings. Now it's worth noting that, compared to the rest of the grid, Red Bull has barely introduced any upgrades to their car. They only introduced upgrades in Hungary, which comprised modified side pods and altered bodywork around the side pods' intakes. and according to the team, those are the only upgrades for the season. However, they have a few circuit-specific upgrades for the second half of the season. We'll have a few circuit-specific things, but nothing that hasn't been done already or committed through the research and development. Red Bull team principal Christian Horner said while explaining the team's development plan, "So why did the team introduce only one upgrade? And why are they not planning on introducing another this year? Due to the wind tunnel time deficit they have as a result of the penalty that is in place until October and having the least aero testing time on the grid because they won last season's Constructors' title, upgrading the RB19 would compromise their 2024 car. But why update a car that is already great? Most of the teams on the grid have been introducing upgrades to their cars as the season progresses. Mercedes introduced some upgrades in Monaco, Ferrari in Saudi Arabia, Miami and Austria, Aston Martin in Canada, and McLaren in Austria. The rest of the field is trying their best to close the gap to Red Bull, and many teams are expected to upgrade their cars during this summer break in readiness for the second half of the season. Like last season, we saw Mercedes upgrade until late into the season, which helped then win the Brazilian Grand Prix. Now the question is, will the teams be able to at least challenge the RB19 for wins or even win races? The Bulls are way ahead of everyone on the grid, but we cannot dismiss the possibility of another team giving them a run for their money. Horner said rival teams, including McLaren, which has emerged as Red Bull's closest competitor at the last two races, still have a significant advantage in car development. The more the teams upgrade their cars, the more they close the gap to the Red Bulls. And if Red Bull doesn't upgrade their car, they will be vulnerable for the rest of the season, and we might have new teams winning races in the remaining 11 races. The Milton Keynes team has instead chosen to focus fully on the 2024 car, as revealed by Horner when he was explaining their development plan. Here is what he said: "With the limitation with the wind tunnel time that we have to make our choices, and so of course we're having to put a lot of focus into next year now to make sure that we don't fall behind. Because the others, you can see McLaren, have made a big step. We're expecting others to do likewise later in the year, particularly with the extra time they have available to them." Defeating Red Bull needs more than just a good car. It needs a talented driver because racing Max won't be a walk in the park. It also requires top-quality race strategies, as the Milton Keynes team's strategy is so brilliant. I mean, just look at their pit stops and compare them to those of the rest of the grid. The RB19 works its tyres perfectly for that crucial one lap in qualifying. It has minimum tyre degradation on long runs, and its use of the DRS when needed is the best so far. And on top of all that, Verstappen's brilliance is on another level. Just look at how easily he breezed past Checo in Spa, and how confident he was to pit at the Austrian Grand Prix on lap 69 of 71 for new tyres in order to set the fastest lap of the race, while still leading the race that he ended up winning with a 5-second gap to Ferrari's Charles Leclerc. In my opinion, if someone beats the Bulls, it will be as a result of a reliability problem or an error, because I do not see it coming from actual performance. However, 11 races are a long way to go and anything can happen, so all I can do is wait and see how it pans out. Well guys, that marks the end of our video for today. Make sure to do a quick pit stop at the subscribe button for more amazing F1 content. Thanks for watching.